all right, my fellow model railroading enthusiasts out there. Happy Wednesday. Here we are into December already, almost the end of the year. It's hard to believe. Well, tonight we're going to have a small switching session, and if anybody else shows up here, we'll have a little chit chat. But yeah, let's get started. We'll get the layout fired up here and get things online. All the cameras seem to be behaving themselves, so that's a good sign. We just wait for my connectivity to happen here on the layout. Hope everybody's had a good week so far. We're halfway through on the downward slide, as it were. Tonight we're going to be using our little GP9 TT for doing our switching, number 4921. So let's get him fired up and see. Hi Gwen, how are you? Let me know if the sound is okay. You can hear me. Excellent. All right, we've got a short switching list. It's not going to take very long tonight. 2, 4, 6. There's 7 cars that I threw into the randomizing program that I'm using. Looks like 3 of them, though, are pretty much staying where they are. So there's the list. I'll let everybody have a look-see. Wait for the live view here to come up. So what I do is I take the rolling stock that I've got and random grabs from that list and put them into a spreadsheet that's got a formula in it. And what it basically does is it knows where each car has the capability of going. So typically you're not going to see a car go somewhere that it shouldn't go. For example, a spine car which carries logs. I have no logging infrastructure here, but theoretically it could go to one of the maintenance shops, or it could go to the welding shop, or the inbound track or the outbound track. And that's pretty much what happens overall with this layout. It's a switching layout. It's straight. There's about 14 feet, maybe a bit more, of track here, and we just have fun with it. So without further ado, let's get things started. We're going to move there's a tank sitting at the welding shop currently, and we're going to move that into the cold storage area, and that should be fairly straightforward, but we got to do some playing around with that car. So we'll get a little switcher out here, and we'll get things moved over to where we need to. But as I say, that's going to be a little bit of playing around that we've got to do to make things happen. Because the cold storage is over on the east end of the layout. And as you see this locomotive backing up, it's going to be going into where the little problem with the trackage there. I have to look at where the cold storage facility is. But the welding shop is to the west of that. Now, if we're picking that up, what's going to happen is that particular car is going to end up on the wrong end, the front end of this locomotive, which means we really can't put it at the cold storage shop. We've got to put it on the opposite end. So we're going to work on that. We're going to grab this car out of the welding facility, and we'll end up moving it out onto one of our tracks here. What is going on? I just cleaned all these tracks. We shouldn't be having any sort of issues out here whatsoever. Oh, it might be this loco itself is not sitting quite right on the tracks. Of course. Well, bear with me, folks. Let's stop this loco here. I love this little engine, but this little locomotive, but it has given me problems in the past. It sits so low on the tracks that the front end catches on it. We're just going to move our switches a couple times here and make sure everything is set. So hopefully we're good there. Let's try this again, shall we? Nothing more embarrassing than when you run the trains all day long and everything's working perfect, and it comes time to actually run them and things don't quite work the way they're supposed to. So you go okay that way. Let's see if you'll go okay this way. Added a few more trees to the layout today and some bushes. I thought some of the areas were looking a little, hang on, I see what the problem is. Why are you hanging up? Ah, see, me and adding bushes. I got a little piece of scenery down in there. Kept the switch from switching over completely. That would do it. So we'll come in and grab this tank car out of the welding shop. And as most model railroaders know, for most occasions, we got to give it a little hand here. So we'll get the stick of God in there. Especially when I push it farther back into the welding shop. That doesn't help things, does it? Oh, come on. Using sticks inside of buildings really doesn't work very well. I'm going to give up on this in a second. There we go, finally. Wow. I'm sure you can, Glenn. But we won't get into those little details. All right, let's get this thing run around if we can. So we're going to come out of the welding shop, which we just did. We're going to go back up to the cold storage facility, but we can't drop off yet because there's something weird going on with my tracks. See, that's what I say. This thing sits so low, I'm going to have to take some of the front end down on this thing. Should have used the S4 instead of this tonight. But what are you going to do? I already committed to this. Or I should be committed, one of the two. So we'll get this guy down onto the main line. Is the music coming through? Okay, thank you. So what we're going to have to do here, I think the GP9 is going to have to uncouple from this car, this tank car, and we're going to end up having to do a bit of a runaround, but we've got to get the S4 out of here as well, which is sitting on the main line. Come on, you can uncouple. It's such a short tank car. So we'll let this guy run up onto what would normally be our main track. And we're going to stop him there for a minute. And what we've got to do is we've got to move this little S2 switcher out of the way. So we get him started up. We're just going to move him down the main line a little bit farther here, just so he's out of the way. We don't have to be on that line at any point in time tonight. And in the meantime, we'll get our double cross switch set up here for the GP9. So he can come through. And we'll get the second crossover set up so we can cross back onto the switching line. Should be good enough for the S4, S2, whatever he is. And we'll bring our 4921 back online here. So he's going to come back up and he's going to cross over the second double crossover here. And he'll end up back on the switching line. He'll grab this tank from the back end of the switcher and then pull it back and then push it up into the cold storage facility. Looks like it's just going to be you and I tonight, Gwen. You lucky girl, you. It's almost drinky poo time, I think. Well, mind you, I've already got mine, so we should be all good. So we've got this little tank car, and what we're going to do is we'll run it forward, get back into the cold storage area, Bell and horn for safety. So once we get the cars in there, for those that don't know what's going on as far as switching is concerned, we don't have to do anything once these cars get to where their destination is. There's nothing that happens to them there. They just have to get there. Now, we're not on a schedule with this switching layout. The HO guys are lucky. They've got big couplers. You can easily switch out these things. Us N scale guys have to struggle. Things being what they are. Hand of God will come in and uncouple it for us. All right, we've done one car. Woohoo! So we can mark that off. Next car, looking at the list, is it looks like the easiest thing to do is to grab we've got a cement car down at the cement factory. So I'm just going to leave the view here for a second while I prep that. I'll be right back. Not really prepping, I just have to get out of camera range because the one that I've got that does the tracking won't quite go this far. But you'll still see the train. So this covered hopper is going to be going from, here we got that one, going from the cement factory here, and it will be going up to, let me check my list, it's going to the east engine facility, so it's going the far end where the one truck has got it, whoops, I thought I had it, where the one truck has got the flashing, the welding truck's got its flashing lights going. So again, we're going to have to do a bit of a runaround on this to get the car on the proper side of the engine. The fun of switching. Not just straightforward, which is what makes it intriguing, because you do have to think about how you're going to get a car from one point to another. Come on. There, now you're wrong. The joys of a live stream, no editing involved. All right, we're coming back into frame. Oop, don't go there yet. I said we have to switch you around to the other end. So we got to get our double crosses set. Get him there, bring this guy back. could have had your drink. There's plenty of time to go grab one. It's only you and I on the channel, so it'll be easy. Not sure why it cut out there. I even cleaned all the track. It's probably where my nemesis is going to be, is the fact that I actually cleaned the track. Alright, let's get this thing out onto the main line. Get stuff switched around. Oh, all this work. Oh no, we're fine. He's going to the engine shop. I was going to say I got my sequence out of order here, but I don't. Everything's good. Don't panic. I'm the only one that's panicking. It's okay. I hope you see a train. You should be able to see them on all the cameras, other than there's a kind of a dead area, but there's not much I can do about that. All right, we're going to pick up this covered hopper. Well, the only reason you're panicking, Gwen, is because you don't have your drink for the evening. A little bit more to do on the layout here, just minor scenery stuff. I've got some lights that just arrived in that I'm putting in where the concrete factory and the co-op are. They're small yard lights. I've got three of them positioned currently, but they're not wired in as yet. And a couple of the vehicles today, I slightly modified them to put some flashing yellow lights on them. As you can see, well, you could have seen by the welding shop there was a welding truck with, or the engine shop I should say. There was a truck sitting there with its lights flashing just behind this car that I'm attempting to uncouple. And then there was an electrical car over by the actual co-op that is sitting there attempting to set up the wiring for the new lights. And it's got a set of flashing lights, so you might see that on the west central camera, just past the co-op through the trees. I think you can see it. So you got this guy where he needs to be, so that's the second one. Next one we're going to grab a car that's sitting over here by the grain silos. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that and we're going to move that one over to the co-op, which has already got a car sitting in it, or a grain car sitting in it. That's fine. He can stay where he's at. The randomizing program or spreadsheet that I use literally just does it all random. So if a car is sitting somewhere, it could remain there. It could get moved out and moved to another location. It's purely a randomized program, which is what makes it nice. So when I'm into a switching mode here, I just randomly grab myself some of the cars, put them into the spreadsheet, and have it randomize its locations. And it works out great. I could be a half-hour switching session. It could be an hour and a half switching session, depending on how complicated the switching arrangement ends up being. Yeah, I got some adjusting to do on these T-track modules. The front end of this GP9 loves to catch as it switches to the next module. So I've either got to adjust the height of the modules, or I think I'm going to end up sanding down the front edge of the GP9 just so I clear. This is the only locomotive that's got this problem, and it's purely because of how low the front end sits, just past or just in front of the couplers. Not only does it do it here, it does it at the club as well, so I know it's the locomotive itself. I thought it was just the club layout, but obviously it's not just the club layout. So this car, this covered hopper, is going to end up going from where it was sitting at the grain silos, and we're going to take it over to the co-op, and I'm going to leave the frame here just for a second, but you will still see the train. If you can go past the cement factory here, and it's going to make its way into the co-op at the far west end of the layout. Slow her down, apply a little bit of braking because it's a very tight turnout to get into the co-op. It's an old area that they never have upgraded the turnout on. So we want to make sure we don't come at it with speed. And back in the days when they only had 40-foot cars, so we can easily get 2 cars into this co-op area. But in doing so, we can't get any more in there and the engine can't sit there. Everybody has problems when they're doing live, including the stream I was watching the other night. Derailments. We're all plagued by something. I can use more than one engine at a time, Glenn, but when I'm using this particular controller, I can only use one engine. I can switch back and forth, but I have to stop using one. If I switch over to my tablet, which is this guy here, I can use probably realistically up to 3 locomotives if I want at one point in time. But the problem with doing that is I have to maintain, or I have to make sure that I'm watching where all 3 of those locomotives are going at any point in time. So when I'm doing a switching operation like I am tonight, I tend to just use this wireless throttle, and I can disconnect or release one locomotive and add another one in, as I did earlier with the 8204 to move it, and then switch back to the current locomotive that I was using. Bit of a pain to switch back and forth, but it is doable. It's not like it's a huge deal. Alright, our next move is going to be, our next move is going to be our last move, which is going to be moving a boxcar from our outbound track, which is way on the west side, over to the engine shed, which is where we dropped off that covered hopper earlier. So that should be fairly simple to do. So let's get that happening. And that's going to wrap up our switching operation for the evening. A big sigh of relief. But we'll set our switches in the meantime. And I will be right back because I'm going to be out of camera view again. So as it passes this last camera, it's just going into the extension yard that I've added here for the cars to sit on. It makes it easier for me to set up to do the switching operations. Alright, we're coming back. And we're back. So our locomotive's going to be driving back here. Again, we're going to have to do a bit of a run around on this to get the car on the proper end of the locomotive. So we'll set up our switches, our crossovers. You wouldn't like my head to explode, Glenn. Be very messy. There's too much stuff sitting up here. So as we pass our first double crossover here, we'll end up stopping the train. Just past the crossovers here. Well, sometimes I have to touch the cars here because uncoupling doesn't necessarily work all the time. It just did for that one, which is perfect. Go figure. But end scale couplers are so tiny, and the semi-realistic looking ones that we run for end scale from a company called Microtrains are great, but they do, when they catch really, really well, and that's a problem. Oh, you're talking about that boxes, those boxes, okay. Yeah, don't let the boxes touch. Not like a female. We won't go there though. A great video from a marriage counselor on YouTube. He explains how men and women's thought processes are, and that women's thought processes are a big jumble of wires, and men's thought processes are boxes, but we never let the boxes touch. So you should look that up if you haven't seen it. Alright, we're going to grab this last box car. What's the harm in going there though, Glenn? It's well worth a laugh until people realize that what he's actually saying is very, very true. Especially with the one box that men have, which is called the nothing box. But I won't talk about that one. Anybody that's interested can go look up that video and have a look at what I'm talking about with that. And you'll understand why I've got a smile on my face. Alright, let's grab this boxcar. Get it into the engine shed on the east end. Yeah, I know. The only problem is you like smacking me, and there's only one of us that likes that, oddly enough. Well, maybe I'm going to have to try and figure out a different night to have one of these switching sessions. I know it was 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time that I decided to do this, but the problem is some of the subscribers, and granted I only have 13 of them, some of them are from all over the place, and you have to deal with different time zones. And I'm not sure what the best time or date would be to actually set up to do one of these sessions. But we'll see. I'll schedule something for next week, and we'll see how it works out. But you're heading off to merry old England next week, Gwen, so I'll have lots of time to be able to set up and do a live stream. So as we bring this guy back to his starting point, which is right here, we'll put him in neutral, set his notch throttle to 0, shut him down, take him offline, and we're going to put our bring back 8204 and bring him forward. See, I can't control two trains here, as I said. The problem is, what has to happen is I have to just release one from the throttle and then attach the next one and then release that to switch back. It's not a big deal because the little throttle that I use allows me to do that. And it's all wireless, so it's very easy to do. So, oops. We're going to end up shutting this guy down. There we go there. As it spools on down. We'll remove power from the track so we don't have any accidents out there. And all the locomotives are now offline. Let's shut down this throttle. And I guess what we're going to do is we're going to leave everybody for the evening so they can carry on. Enjoy the rest of your week. Stay safe. And those of you who are experiencing snow like we have been, make sure you drive carefully on the roads. And we'll catch you at the next one. I'll post a start time for the next one as soon as I figure that out. Take care. Enjoy yourselves. Have fun.